I hope you're having fun celebrating Earth Day. My name's Issy Saxton and I was a part of Sustainable Fashion Week last summer, so I'm back again today to talk to you about the nuances of sustainability and more specifically the definition of sustainability and how that can actually be misleading when brands misuse it. If you have any questions at all, I can answer them in the YouTube comments, so please don't be shy. I graduated from the Rhode Island School of Design last year with a BFA in apparel design and a minor in nature, culture, sustainability and science. So I've been trying to use my ability to make clothing to attract people towards sustainability and to try and encourage people to learn more about it and to learn ways in which they can get involved. I wanted to start off today by talking about something that I see happening all the time with many different products from many different industries. And I was reminded of this the other day when I saw my brother's bottle of Head & Shoulders shampoo, because on the back of it said, "Good for the planet, made with 25% recycled plastic," and the infographic made it look very convincing. But if 25% of it is recycled plastic, then that means that 75% of it is virgin plastic, which falsifies their original statement of being good for the planet. I read this book called No More Plastic by Martin Dorey, and it is such a great read. It has so many facts and 2-minute solutions that you can implement in it. And one of the things that I learned from that book is that plastic can only be recycled 2 to 3 times because the polymers that make it up end up breaking, so it can't make that plastic that we're used to. So this means that plastic inevitably ends up in landfills and incinerators, in on-land ecosystems, and in the ocean. Now, speaking of ocean plastic, there are many innovations out there at the moment that are trying to collect ocean plastic, to repurpose it, and to create a new life for it. One of these innovations is EcoNil, which according to their website is a closed-loop, infinitely recyclable fabric which is made from fishing nets found in the ocean. Every day I get a new advert on my Instagram trying to get me to buy a sustainable bikini made with EcoNil, and there are so many swimwear companies that advertise this. So I go onto their website and I have a look at the product and I can see that they're using conventional thread and elastic. So the thread and elastic are not organic or recycled. So this means that the product is not sustainable and the company is not sustainable, but they're trying to be environmentally responsible by using EcoNil. And so the reason why I bring up this nuance is because when companies greenwash the consumer, it's not actually improving the industry because the consumer's still buying a product that isn't sustainable, but they're fooled into thinking that it is. So then we have this horrible loop of the company not improving their practices because the consumer is still buying from them, and it will just keep going infinitely unless somebody steps in and intervenes and says, actually, this company's greenwashing you, they're not sustainable, they're trying to be environmentally responsible in some cases. So a garment is sustainable if it can be infinitely recycled or if it can biodegrade and return nutrients to the soil. And this is why it's so important to consider the environmental impact of the thread, hardware and elastic that's chosen to be used in a product. Dyes also have a massive impact on ecosystems because so many clothing dyes have toxic chemicals in them which have a massively detrimental effect on ecosystems, which include humans. So society needs to get to the point in which companies are honest and say that they're environmentally responsible if they are, and if they're only using 25% recycled plastic in their product, they should state that without greenwashing and saying that it's good for the planet, because it's not. This is part of the reason why I wanted to do this video, because we need millions of people to be aware of this misrepresentation of sustainability so that we can progress as a society. So that eventually altogether we can help shape the way that we see things and make it so that the bare minimum of the entire manufacturing industry and what people frown upon will be that example of using conventional elastic and thread with an environmentally responsible fabric. Thank you for listening to me talk. Feel free to continue the conversation and contact me through my website, which is isabelsaxton.com, or on Instagram at isabel.saxton. I hope you enjoy the rest of the workshops. Bye for now.
Hi, welcome to Upcycling Your Wardrobe with Block Printing. My name is Sehar Peerzada, and I am originally from Washington, D.C., currently living in Baltimore, Maryland. Today we're going to talk about how to make your wardrobe a little bit more lasting and a little bit more exciting by changing it through the use of block printing. Block printing is simply the use of one object to apply paint onto another object. That could be paper, it could be fabric. It's been around for thousands of years, and I learned to block print on one of my trips to Pakistan. I used to work a lot in mudcloth, and my husband said, why don't you figure out how to do your own fabric, how to design your own fabric. So block printing was something that is traditional in Pakistan, and that's where I learned. Now, I'm not a block carver, but I am a clothing designer and a printer. And I like block printing because I can control how my garment looks by controlling where I place the print based on the shape of my garment. I'm going to show you a few samples to show you how I've used block printing. This is a little jacket, and it's made of linen. I use mostly natural fibers when I'm printing, and this is 100% linen. And I've used a block that is a straight block. It's a border. Normally you'd see this kind of a block on the bottom of something, but I chose to put it on the top. And this is a border, so I've used this border print. And this design is taken from an Egyptian pattern. I designed the blocks and then I have them carved. Now this print was done on 100% cotton gauze. This is a little bit different because I've used several sizes of block, and I've used some dyeing. I've dyed the fabric, and then I've used a block that comes in several different sizes. I did it in a big one and a little one, and I used two different colors. That gives it depth and it makes it a bit more interesting. This piece is wool. It's just a little mini skirt, and I've used wool, and I wanted to show you that you could print on just about anything. And I also wanted to show you the block. This is the block that I used to print this piece. And this lets you know how many times I had to make a print on this skirt in order to get enough print such that it met my designer's eye. This piece is an upcycled piece. This is a men's shirt, and it's 100% cotton. I decided that I wanted an all-over print with this one, and so I decided where I wanted the print and made it with two blocks. I'm going to show you both blocks. Now, one block is a fill block. This one is the fill, and this one is the line. It's an outline. Most of the time, you can use the block, you can use the inside color and the outside color as two different colors. Now, in this case, I've just used one color, and I've kind of printed them kind of off center so that you could see a more interesting pattern, since I was only using one color, but two sizes of block. And that's a design choice that you can sometimes make. And it also covers up any little errors you might make. That's one fun thing about block printing, is that you can take something that you've gotten a nasty mustard stain on, and you can turn it into something beautiful that will continue to last in your wardrobe. And that's the point of upcycling. Being able to save your clothes, or get something like I got this piece at a thrift store. This is 100% silk, and I've used 2 or 3 blocks, 2 different sizes of the same print and then another print to make a border on the bottom. And then I've used a small block just on the collar. And because the silk is so beautiful by itself, I wanted to leave some of the silk showing, but give it a little pop with using the black. These are the matching pants. Now on the pants, I decided to do a tuxedo kind of a design by running it right down the side of the leg. And this looks very nice when you wear it. The pants are tapered pants and the silk is a little bit shiny, but the print is something that you would never see again, because when you do this, it makes your garment one of a kind. Now we're going to talk about the blocks, the actual tools of the trade. Now there are a number of different kinds of blocks that I have here. These are commercial blocks, and these you can get on eBay or Amazon, or sometimes they're available in the craft store. Now they're made of foam, most of them, and you can see that they're not as deep as some other blocks. These small patterns, you have to be very careful with printing. This is a very popular one. The pineapple, for some reason, is all the rage. Hearts are always fun. It's a big one and a little one. And you can see how they're raised so that the sides don't touch the ink. This is a butterfly and a dragonfly. And both of them are fun pieces. A lot of people like animals and butterflies and flowers as spring is coming. This is also foam, and this is that circle of life emblem that is so very popular. This is a larger one. Now for beginners, I don't suggest this large block, because if you're upcycling, you don't know what size you're going to need until you know what you're printing on. So you can get multiple prints on a piece without having to use a large block initially. Eventually you might want to graduate to a larger block. This is a commercial wood block. You can also get these on Amazon and eBay. You can get them individually, and they come in all sizes. And this is a hand-carved block, and it's not a commercial block, it's an antique one. Now, one thing that I want to talk to you about is the difference between the two kinds of blocks. When you get a hand-carved block, this is a wooden one and it's hand-carved. You can see the edges, that's the first thing, and it's very deep, so the ink is less likely to get on your print where you don't want the ink. You only want the ink that's covering the actual pattern that's carved into the blocks. Now, all of my wood blocks that I use most of the time are hand-carved. Sometimes I might commission them in two sizes. This is a big one and a little one. Sometimes, this is also a big one and a little one. This is actually the exact same print, but it looks a little bit different when it gets smaller. This one is an Adinkra symbol, very popular. I have all of the symbols and in several sizes. You have to also think about how much ink do you want on your fabric. This uses a lot of ink, because you can see it's a very broad base design. This one uses less ink because it has very thin lines, and it'll make a very thin, much more delicate design. This is one of my favorite blocks. I just happen to like it. It's a modified circle of life kind of thing, and I believe the pattern is probably taken from hand-done pottery. It's one of those designs that's a cultural design, and I like it very much. And I use all my blocks like they're paintbrushes, because for me they are paintbrushes. So I just wanted you to see the difference, see how deep this is as compared to this one. Even this is done by a machine. This is done by hand. You can find blocks that are hand done, antique ones, in your thrift stores. A lot of people buy them when they're traveling, but they never use them. They use them for decoration. This is one that I made using foam. I just cut up pieces of foam and glued it, on top of a thicker piece of foam. And another thing that's about the blocks is that I like blocks where I can see the edges, because when I'm doing more than one print of the same thing, if it's not dark enough, you really can see where you're going to place the block by seeing where the edges are. On these foam blocks, you can't see that. You can't see that when you're putting it down because there's like 1/4 of an inch around the edge. I'm going to show you a sample. I'm going to tell you about the ink, and then we're going to talk about the sample. One more thing I just wanted to say is that you can use things from around the house. Like this is just a sponge that you would use for makeup. So you can use this, you can cut it, it's easy to cut. You can cut it, and then you have a straight design here that you can use. There's a triangle on this side that you can use, and I'll show you using this a little bit after you pour the ink. So you might want to just make your own repetitive design using something like this that's disposable. Now, what you'll need for your inking pad, you need ink and you need an inking pad. I use a piece of foam that you can get from the craft store, just simple foam. You can use a thick one or a thin one. I like actually one that's a little bit harder than this. This is very soft. But the reason you want it soft is because when you press your block down into the ink, you want it to be able to go down into it a little bit. It makes it so that more ink gets on your block. And then I use for my actual pad though, this is felt. It's just simple felt from a craft store. And I put mine in a little tub like this so that it doesn't slip. This one already has one in it. And I usually pin it. I just take straight pins and I pin it down to the foam so that it doesn't lift up after you've been pressing it. Now, this one is all done. It's already pinned down and it's been used a little bit. They get nice and seasoned. You can use these over and over again. I use mine over and over again. And if you cover them properly, you can keep them moist. Sometimes I just pour a little bit of water in and that keeps the pad from getting dry. Now, the kind of ink I use screen printing ink. I use this particular brand because it sticks to my blocks very nicely. They're not paying me to say this, and it doesn't matter what brand you use. You have to use something that is easy for you to get and easy for you to use. I use silk screen ink for fabric. There's ink for paper, but this ink is for fabric. And it comes in a lot of different colors. I use black a lot because I like the contrast, but it comes in a lot of different colors and you can mix ink. I keep bottles like this around in case I want to make a special color or in case I want to make the ink a little bit thinner. Now we're going to pour the ink. A little bit of ink using my trusty popsicle stick. That's a must-have for any craft room. And then I use a spatula. This is just a painter spatula. You can get them in plastic or you can get them metal. Sometimes you can find them by the bag. That makes it really nice when you can have a batch of them. And I use that to smooth the ink onto the pad. And I like to have a lot of ink on the pad so that the pad soaks it up. Okay, now I can leave a little on the edge so that when I want to refresh the pad, that ink is already there. Okay, now I'm going to put this off to the side a little bit, and first I'm going to show you a print. This is a virgin print. I've never used this block before, but I want to show you how it looks when it's printed. This is wood. I'm going to use a plain white sheet of paper just to try it out. That's a pretty good print. That's kind of pretty for spring. Now I just dip my block in the ink. I don't use a roller. I don't like using the roller. Sometimes the blocks are not flat anyway. And I find that this is a much more efficient way, and that's the way I learned to do it in Pakistan. I learned to block print overseas on one of my trips to Pakistan. And these blocks are carved in Pakistan and in India, where it is part of the culture. The hand printing is a preserved culture. They're copying the prints a lot now by machine, but you can still get a lovely hand-done print. That makes a beautiful print. Now we'll try one of the foam ones. We'll try this little heart. Dip it in. You always should check to make sure you don't have any extra ink. Sometimes you might get thick ink down inside in between the pattern. Sometimes you might get ink along the edges. This is a good one. It doesn't have a lot of edge, so it's not going to give too much trouble with that. Nice. Very nice print. Here, let's turn it this way. Very nice print. So now I'm going to show you a wooden one, a hand-carved wooden one. Now, as you can see, as I'm putting pressure down, it dips even into the table. I use a lot of newspaper or felt underneath so that I have even a little bit of give when I'm pressing down, because you want the ink to really go into the fibers. Some people use mallets when they're printing. I don't use a mallet. If I need to press really hard, I just use my fist like that. I hold the block and use my fist. If you don't hold the block, sometimes it bounces and makes, you don't want that unless you just want that as a design choice. Okay, so this shows how the different kinds of blocks print, and depending on how thick the pattern is, as to how much ink you need to get on your block. Okay, now today what we're going to do is print a t-shirt. This is one that's been printed. And this is a design that just kind of runs painterly across the design. This one is a bit more rigid. It's done with a block that I made into a border print, and I just made it kind of at an angle. I didn't want it straight across, just wanted it at an angle. Okay. Now, in order to prepare your shirt, this is just a little t-shirt. You might have a little t-shirt in the bottom of your drawer that may have an old mustard stain on it, or you like the shirt, but it's getting kind of worn. Well, you might want to update it by adding a little print. Now, the first thing you have to remember is that you don't want the print that you put on the front to show through to the back. So what I do is take a piece of plastic. This is just a piece of plastic bag, and I put it in between the shirt. It doesn't matter whether this is a blouse or a pair of pants or whatever it is, you always want to put a protective something, plastic is easy, in between. Now, you also have to check where is it ending, where is it beginning and ending, so that as you're doing your design, you know where you want to begin and end. Now, this is ending here, so I'm going to add a plain piece of paper underneath in case I want to come down past where that is stopping. Okay, and we can start all the way up here because the plastic is up here. Now, when you're deciding what kind of a block you want to use, let's use a block that's kind of a medium size like this. Then you can either do it straight across in several rows, or you can do it at an angle. You can run it up and down and across, or you can make it a design around the neck. There's so many things that you can do with it. Now, you might have a stain on your shirt. Let's say you have a mustard stain right here. Then maybe you want to start your design here and then kind of take some design inspiration from where you began. That's how a lot of art begins. So the first thing we're going to do is spread the ink again. Make sure there's a fresh batch of ink. Now, I'll do it here. I don't want to get any extra ink on the shirt. You can see how I'm dipping it. Then I'm gonna check it to make sure there are no hairs. Sometimes you might get a string or a hair or a fiber or anything on the block, and you don't want that because that'll mess up your design. So let's start up here in the corner. I'm gonna press down gently at first. There. Now, I like to overlap the block sometimes. I'm not going to overlap here. If I'm doing a larger project, sometimes we pin the edges down so that it doesn't move. Now let's use the smaller version of the block. Again, I'm going to just check it. The plastic in between is sometimes a little slippery, so that's another reason for holding the block. And because this block is a circular block and it's kind of free form the way I'm printing, I can kind of print anywhere that looks pretty to my eye. And that's what you have to do, is just use your own artistic eye to decide where you want something put. Spread some ink a little bit more. This isn't a very long process. It's mostly the prep that takes a little time. Covering your table and deciding where you want your design. But once you get going, it doesn't take that long. I'm going to check it. See how it's slipping a little bit? I think I need a couple more small ones. There, and that's, you might think that's kind of enough. That's not bad for a first run, a very easy and simple way of printing for a beginning person. I'm going to show you another thing you can do. I know some of you may have an old tennis shoe or even a new tennis shoe in your closet, and you can use a wooden block to print on your shoes. I actually like the foam blocks for printing on shoes because sometimes you might have to curl them around and they have a little bit of movement. I'm going to use this heart. I want to make sure I have enough. The canvas is a little thick, so you want to make sure that you have enough ink on your block because you don't want to have to do a double print. I think I'm going to even pour a little bit more ink for this one because canvas takes a few more seconds for the ink to really sink in. You don't want to wet it because if you wet it, then it'll bleed. Okay, a little more ink on there. Now let's see if we can get a decent print. I think I'm going to start up at the toe. Now I've got the shoe stuffed with paper, and then my hand is inside and underneath it so that I can press up against it nice and hard. That's not bad. Could have been a little bit darker for my liking. Let's see if we can get another one on here. And you can also see that one of the differences with the wood block and the foam is that the foam does not hold as much ink as the wood block. It's just a different kind of a material. The foam is not absorbent, but the wood is absorbent. There. Now you can also, if you want to fill in, instead of overprinting, you can use a Q-tip to fill in some of the spots if you want it darker. Some people don't like them darker. I like mine very dark. And you don't have to do it all the way, just a little bit if you want to fill it in. I would not trust trying to do a double print with the foam blocks. Now, kind of interesting, something that you definitely would never see again. Now, something else we can look at with the blocks is how to make a border print using the same block. If you just want to go straight across, you can make your own border just by going straight across. And you can measure it and mark it if you want to, if you decide that you want to do something that's just your own border. It doesn't have to be a border style print. And then I will also show you how to go over a print. I'm going to use the adinkra symbol. See, sometimes they get dirty, they get hair on them. Now, I'm going to do one print with this. And this one I will hammer. Now, see, I want this filled in. So let's see. When you're looking at it, I can see where this goes pretty much and try to match up the edges. There. Now I've got a pretty close to perfect print. But you can do that with a wooden block, but you can't do it as easily with the foam blocks because of the extra edges. And so you can see this is the same block. Okay, now I want to show you the finished t-shirt. Let's get the ink out of the way. We don't want to get ink on the shirt, extra ink. So this is your finished product. You could do this on a blouse. You could do it on a child's play suit. You could do it on anything. Okay, follow my YouTube channel, and next time I'll show you a little bit more about design and block printing. Have a great day.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Syeko Design House. My name is Brandy, and I am the designer of Syeko. So, Syeko actually means to think outside the box and achieve your dreams, and it's spelled Syeko. So, Syeko, I actually started it in my dorm room in college. I graduated from the Art Institute of Philadelphia in 2005. And one of the first things that I was able to make was a t shirt. So I feel like t shirts go with everything. You can wear it with jeans, leggings, a fitted pencil skirt. I mean, it's so many things that you can do with a t shirt. But sometimes you just get a little bored with them. So I'm going to show you how to spruce up your t shirt in a matter of minutes. And you'll be able to wear it if you're going out that night or later in the evening. You'll be able to wear it. So I'm located at the Motor House, which is 120 West North Avenue in the Arts District. I absolutely love it here. I'm able to be freely creative along with a lot of the other artists that are in the building. So if you're ever in the area, please stop by and see me. Okay, so let's get started. So we are going to start with a simple black t-shirt. You do not have to use a black t-shirt. You can use white, red, pink, whatever color works best for you. So because we are in spring, going into summer, I always like a little off the action shoulder. If you do not like this look, you can just leave it as is. But if you do like the off the shoulder look, you would just grab a pair of scissors. And also, before you start any garment, you always want to steam it out or you want to iron it. It just does something for the fabric. It makes everything look better, come out better. So the first thing that I'm going to do is give this a little shoulder action. So you start right from the middle seam. You cut. Don't worry if your scissors give your t-shirt a little bit of a ragged edge. It's okay because it actually gives the t-shirt more body. So you just keep cutting right underneath of this trim right here. This is a V-neck t-shirt, okay? Just gonna cut this on around. And this is so cool because you can actually do a nice bra underneath, or you can do a lace cami underneath of here if you still wanted to have some type of coverage on top of the t-shirt being off the shoulder. Okay. So, as you can see, it still has the same look to it, but once you put it on, it's just going to hang a little bit more off of the shoulder. So this is just your base thus far. Basic, very easy. Now, depending on if you like your t-shirts to fit long, you can leave it like this, but sometimes people like the crop look or they like their t-shirts to fit a little shorter. So what you can do is never worry about if it's lined up, the fabric right here, because it's going to give it a different look if it's not just cut straight across. So with this look, you don't have to worry about it being lined up perfectly. And the great thing also about having extra fabric from your t-shirts, you can always do something with these. Always. I mean, even if it's as simple as making it into a bow. To add on to the shoulder of your t-shirt. So this is just if you wanted some drama from the actual fabric from the t-shirt. Okay. So now that we have cut the t-shirt, I always take it and just look at it and have it to, just so I can eye it and see if it's cut correctly, if it's anything that I need to cut from the bottom. So you see this extra fabric right here? This can either be pulled or cut. I say cut it. It always looks better with it being cut. And it's so funny because although we're just starting this project, the t-shirt looks different already. It's giving me kind of like a distressed look. So the next thing you can do, let's just say you want to add a little bit of color to your t-shirt, okay? Some people might like it to stay black, but some people might want to add just a little color. So once you apply the color on your t-shirt, you want to give the shirt about 2 to 3 hours to dry. You want to put it in front of the fan, but you can play around with it and apply the paint wherever you like. So let's see. I'm going to start on the shoulder. And what's so cool about this look is it's going to give a different type of texture because it is with a paintbrush. So you're actually taking the paintbrush and you're just dabbing the fabric. See? Dab the fabric. And the fun thing about it is you can put this paint wherever you want to put it on your shirt. It depends on your style. I always suggest starting at the shoulder. This is always my starting point, and it helps me to keep the pattern going, whether I want it just on this side, around the full shirt, but always start at the shoulder. It's something about it. Okay, I'm continuing to dip my brush in the paint, acrylic paint or fabric paint. Now, you can leave it as this, or you can take your brush and kind of paint the bottom part down a little. See? The main thing about doing this is building different textures. This is what is going to give your t-shirt a certain look. So I'm going to go back in, more pink, put a little bit on the sleeve. Cute. I might have to put this on later. Okay, so we're going to keep going. And like I said, you can use as little paint or as much as you like. So you see, I'm taking the brush and I'm dabbing it. With me dabbing the fabric, that's giving me the paintbrush look. And then once I do this reminds me of like a waterfall. And you're just going to brush straight down. Okay. See, the back is still plain. You want to make sure you paint to the seams. Okay. So, that's a little bit of pink added on. Now, I also have a different shade of pink. So the first shade was hot pink. The second shade is more of a rose pink. So we're going to do the same method. And although it's different colors, they're still similar. But as you can see, it's very important to build the paint on the fabric. But don't forget, you're trying to wear this t-shirt later or maybe tomorrow. So you want to make sure that you don't use too much paint. See, I don't have any paint dripping down my paintbrush. And another thing is, don't be afraid to paint over the hanger. It actually adds new definition to your t-shirt. So this is the hanger right here. Okay, and then we're gonna do, what is it called again? The waterfall. Paint on down. Now, how far do you actually want your waterfall to be on your shirt? Some people may like it to go all the way down to the bottom. I love different textures and different colors, so I'm gonna stop mine right in the middle because I feel like any black t-shirt, any color that you put on it, if you leave a little bit of black, it's gonna give it more body. Okay? And kind of just let it flow. Don't be so hard on yourself. You know, the one thing about art is it represents you. You know, so we can both look at the same picture and literally see something different. So don't be so hard on yourself. Kind of enjoy it, make it fun. Okay, great. So we have the first layer. Okay, so after this layer, you want to put this in front of the fan for about 25 to 30 minutes so that when you start to stitch on your embellishment, you're not getting so much paint on the flowers. So this is the first step. Put it in front of the fan. Now, if you decide that you want to add just a little bit more funkiness to it, you can do the back. Okay? So what I did was I kept the pink paint on the brush and I'm going to dip into some blue paint. Don't worry about the colors mixing because you'll see. You see how it gives it like a bluish, then it goes pink. So we're still dabbing. You see my hanger going across? Don't be afraid to dab the hanger. Okay. I'm really liking this t-shirt so far. And because it's so easy to make, and you can literally put this on tonight. Okay. Absolutely Syeko. So now, this is the back of your shirt. This is the front of your shirt. Never be afraid to mix colors. And don't forget, we still have that crop neck as well, and the t-shirt has been cut at the bottom. Now sometimes you might want a few slits in your t-shirt, okay? So you're going to take your scissors. Now the fun thing about it is you can put your slits anywhere you like. I start at the base, I cut, go across. You don't want to make them too big though, because once you wash them, or if anything, you don't want it to stretch out. I love this look when the fabric folds over, because you can actually leave it like that, or you can stitch it down. So now you have some slits in the back of your t-shirt. Let's do a couple of slits in the sleeves. Now you don't have to do this, okay? But if you just want to add a little bit of extra funkiness to your t-shirt, you can. Okay? So, if you have pink in the front of your t-shirt, put on a pink bra. You know? It'll show out the back. It may show in the front. Okay, so now we're going to take some needle and thread. So you just thread one needle. You don't need a whole lot of thread, but just enough to be able to loop it through this flowers. That way you don't have to keep reapplying the thread, rethreading the needle. Okay, so I love to play around with flowers. So what we're gonna do is this black flower right here, let's give her a little bit of drama. So remember the first paintbrush that we used? Let's paint this flower. And you can find these pretty satin flowers on Etsy. You may find some at Michael's, but it does not have to be the satin ones that I'm using. You can literally use any type of flower that you can get a thread through. So this is the flower. Now, where should we apply it? There's so many different ways. You can put it here. I love it here. As you can see, I'm back to what? My shoulder base. This is always the best way to start. Take the needle, start your thread through the inside. Pull it through. Okay, got that first flower on. We're going to take the thread, put it back through the inside of the shirt, and we're going to do a knot. Another thing that I would suggest, use one of the velour or cloth hangers. It helps the fabric to stick on while you're creating your t-shirt. If you use a plastic hanger, it will slide off. You know, you'll get paint everywhere. But if you can just stick to one of these hangers, absolutely wonderful. Pop a color right underneath. Don't forget, you can add these flowers anywhere that you like. I forgot to knot the bottom of the thread. So you see what happened. If you don't re-knot it, it will come through. Okay. And if you have any old t-shirts, because it's all about sustainable fashion, and we're trying to decrease the amount of fabric that we have going into the oceans and in the environment that are causing our environment a lot of harm. So let's just say you have an old white t-shirt and it's kind of discolored, you don't like it anymore. This is a perfect project for that. If it's white, instead of using pink paint, you can use black. Fade it out, do the same thing I'm doing. Okay, take it through the back. We're gonna loop it. I always like to do a double knot just to be safe. Okay. Okay, we building up the accessories now. Okay, so pink flower. Like I said, you can put it anywhere you like. Also use any colors that make you feel good, that you want to wear out. You might be a person that likes black on black. Well, guess what? Get a black t-shirt, black paint, black flowers. You can still cut it. And as you can see, I'm not getting a whole lot of paint on my hands, and I haven't put my shirt in front of the fan yet. But you've already put your shirt in front of the fan before we stitch the flowers on. But as you can see, we're not using a whole lot of paint. Because once again, you're trying to look cute in this t-shirt later on, right? Okay. So let's see what we're working with so far. Cute. Jeans, leggings, shorts. I mean, you can do so much with this. Look how it's coming together. Just a simple t-shirt. Okay. So I'm going to add one more. I'm going to do another one of these peach flowers. This peach looks really good up against this black. Once again, don't be so hard on yourself. This is a fun way to just relieve some stress. You know, it's a lot going on in the world right now, and art is therapy. And this is wearable art. So, these are the t-shirts, these are the flowers that I added on. So as you can see, we've kind of like built a t-shirt thus far. So let's see. Another thing that I absolutely love are brooches. So I'm going to stitch one more flower on here, and then the thing with t-shirts are the fabric is very thin, so you don't want to get a brooch that's super heavy. You want to get one that's kind of light that you can put on. Let's add another flower right here in the front. Once again, use any type of flowers you like. And once again, I'm going to knot it in the back. And as you can see, I'm still using the same thread and the same needle. So you want to make sure you thread your needle enough where you don't have to keep threading it. Because as for me, I need my reading glasses to do it. So, I don't know about you. So this is a beautiful Syeko t-shirt that can be worn outside. It can be worn with jeans. It can be worn with leggings. And you know, sometimes we just need something that's kind of simple but chic. With this t-shirt, you don't need a whole lot of accessories because it actually speaks for itself. So now, let's grab a brooch. So, this brooch is not really heavy. And like I said, you can put it wherever you like. And it's funny because this is actually a brooch with flowers. And then we've stitched all of these flowers on here. So that's like super cool. So you can put this brooch right here, up here. But I feel like since we have so much drama on this side, let's just keep the drama on this side. And you just make sure you get that clasp in. And it'll sit right there. So if you have any brooches at home, I know a lot of times we have accessories and jewelry laying around. If you have any brooches, pull them out. Put them on your t-shirts. You know, it really changes the look of a t-shirt. See? Now we're going to go back through one more time and dip just a little bit more paint just to make sure. As you can see, I'm still using the paintbrush to do this on the flowers. And guess what, guys? You are officially Syeko. So as you can see, this was not a hard t-shirt to make. Enjoy yourself. Go Syeko. getting to your flowers, getting to your brooches. And just remember that t-shirts are very easy to put on, but they are the absolute best if you spruce them up, Syeko, and wear them with your favorite jeans and some heels or your sneakers. And I thank you so much for tuning in. And please do your best to help us preserve the environment. We like to reuse different fabrics, different accessories, because once you're done with this t-shirt, you can literally cut these off and put it on a jacket. So let's save the earth. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm Brandy of Syeko Design House, and you have an awesome Syeko day.
From India, and I'm going to show you how you can use natural dyes to make beautiful fabrics. And my brand is Indigo Amour. We are dealing with handmade, hand-spun yarn fabrics which are dyed with natural colors. So I'm very grateful to Sustainable Fashion Week for giving me this opportunity to show you the process of dyeing and the theory behind dyeing. So I'll be covering this through video, and we have recorded all the videos at home. I hope they are successful in this online workshop. So we are going to learn these natural dyes from various kind of sources, and the mordants are basically of three types. So one is a mordant from alum, which is going to bind the molecule of dye to the natural dye. So alum or fitkari in Hindi is a very common ingredient. You can find it in any kind of grocery store, and they are powerful in terms of getting fastness in color on the cotton and silk fabric. The second type of mordant is myrobalan, which is called as harda in Hindi, and that's a fruit, a small fruit which is ground to get a powder form. So that greenish yellow powder is going to be a mordant for many of the colors, so that they bind again for the binding process of dye to the fabric surface. The third mordant would be ferrous sulfate. It is kind of an iron salt which is sold in the market. It's like a granular greenish kind of a salt. We use that to make greyish colors and to make black color from myrobalan and ferrous sulfate. So these are the three basically mordant which I'm going to show you in the beginners workshop to make colors and to make these dyes long last on the fabric. Also to change the shade or to change the color from one type to the other type. Okay, so now we can show you the samples we have dyed. So this is my cotton, all these cotton, and it's a very special cotton. It was hand woven and hand spun in villages of Gujarat in India. It's an organic cotton fiber. So it is a pesticide, no pesticide, toxin-less kind of a fabric, and it is called as a color cotton in Gujarat. So it's a very special fabric with no treatment of artificial, surfaces or finishes or dyes. So it was a check fabric,
beige and a check fabric. So I have taken the same fabric, and it's a pre-washed fabric, so we have to wash our fabrics properly before we make them dye. This one is a silk fabric. So some of the silk fabrics would give you brighter shades. Here we are getting a little bit of pastel shade from the dyes. So like you can see, this one, this bright yellow is from the marigold, the blue one is from the indigo powder, the reds are from either sapanwood or lac dye, or it can be from madder dye. So this one is from madder. You can have a brownish, a pale brown, peachish kind of color from tea leaves. Here again we have applied some kind of resist technique in terms of folding the fabric along with the dyes. And this one is cotton, this one is silk, this is cotton, kala cotton, this one is silk, tussar silk from India, and this one again cotton, this one again cotton. So these are all different kind of dyes. So this one is a lac dye, so which gives certain kind of shades of orange, red to the violet and purple. And this one is indigo, pure indigo onto white. This one is indigo on silk with some kind of folding technique. As you can see, you get a pattern if you fold it. This one is again an indigo dye with a little bit of resist. Here we have a yellow and a purplish kind of a color which I got from a black reddish. This one is a lac dye again, but with the mordant of ferrous sulfate, and that gives it some kind of character in terms of color and the dye depth. Okay, now these are some woolen yarns which were dyed in natural dyes, and then it was woven with a cotton thread on a loom. So this is a handloom fabric with wool as dyed at home, and as you can see, there's a lovely pattern. So the warp is a power loom made yarn, and the weft is of different kind of colors of wool, and this was made on a small table loom, so you can have all these colors to get a very nice texture to your fabric. So you get green by mixing indigo and a yellow from either pomegranate rind or from the marigold flower or from turmeric. So okay, then we have a very deep indigo which is dyed by artisans in India in the Jaipur villages. So there was a mud kind of resist over here. They use block and a mud kind of thick solution which is printed to resist the color, and then the indigo vat is natural indigo vat, and it's a cool dye, and that's how they get the pattern on the fabric. Okay, this third sample again, these are wool sample where we have done a tapestry on a frame. So you can have all these colors, peach, pink, blue, shades of blue, green, peach, brownish. So all the shades were possible into a wool fabric. So we have some crochet samples as well here. As you can see, these are all wool, pure wool, merino wool, and we have dyed it from these natural dyes into lac dye, indigo dye, a yellow dye, and we are using it to make crochet samples. So these are the colors, and there is a big theory of natural dyes and how to do it, and every, I think, designer or textile artist or artisan would proceed in some kind of unique way. So I'll be telling you what I have learned from artisans and from books and from my own experiments to show you how you can start with an alum mordant and flowers and leaves like marigold flower, leaves, barks. So that's what we will be starting with. Okay, so first color that we'll extract is very simple yellow, which is greenish yellow, dull yellow from pomegranate rind. So these are dried up pomegranate shell, and whenever I eat a pomegranate, I dry the shells. You can take a powder as well, and then I'm boiling it in water, enough water so that they are covered in extra water. This is alum, and alum has to be 20 to 30% of the weight of the fabric. If you take a powder of pomegranate, it can be 30 to 40% weight of the fabric. So now the water is turning greenish. As you can see, it has been boiling for almost like 20 minutes. You have to boil the color for almost 30 to 40 minutes in order to extract the best of the colors. So we keep on mixing, and then we let it be on the gas along with the alum for almost another 10 to 20 minutes. And then we prepare the fabric by washing it. Before we dye, we have to wash our fabrics very well. We can use a soap, or we can use a caustic soda to do a proper scouring. I use Rita soap nut or Easy soap, which is a very simple soap in terms of washing the fabrics. It is used in India to wash wool fabric, and it's a very soft soap. So right now this solution is on sim gas. It is not a very high gas, so temperature can be lowered after you have boiled the skin. So yellow is a very nice color. It has a tannin as well, which is going to help in binding the color to the fabric molecule. It will act as a color as well as a little bit of cotton fabric, grey fabric, and we have washed it. So now we have come out. This is a semi-wet, semi-dry kind of cotton fabric. So we are going to dye this with pomegranate yellow. As you can see, it is boiling, and we are going to dip this cotton into pomegranate yellow plus alum which we had added. So alum can be 20 to 30% of the weight of fabric. So generally for let's say half a meter, I take almost 1 teaspoon or 2 teaspoons depending upon the intensity that we want. Okay, now even the dye, if you don't have a powder, you have to take a little bit extra so that it is not lesser. And in terms of powder, we have to take almost again 30 to 40% of the weight of the fabric. Okay, so now this cotton fabric is wet, and it has been dipped into soapy water overnight, washed, softened. So we are going to dye this into yellow. Okay, so here we go, and we can either fold it into some kind of pattern, or if you want a solid color, we have to dip it thoroughly into water. It has become very dark, dark yellow, and it has been boiling for the past almost half an hour. So this is what the intensity that we want, all the pulp has come out, and either we can strain this color and get this peels out, or I can dip it into the same thing, recycle again the color, put in more water, and can dip with a lower intensity of yellow. So this is never going bad, you can always recycle with a lighter tone, going from dark to light as we move up. So okay, this is my fabric, and I'm gonna dip it here. As you can see, this will be dipped into the water. The cotton fiber is a cellulosic natural fiber. It is taking up the color very nicely, and it's not a lemon yellow, it's a deeper towards the tone of kind of greenish yellow. So this is how the fabric is turning very yellow in just 1 or 2 minutes, and we have to keep on rotating the fibers, fabric, whatever is in the pan. You don't have to leave it at one place. And the heat is here not too high, so it is sim to medium heat that we have to work upon, and it's a very dark shade. If you want a lighter shade, you have to put in more water, dilute the water in terms of concentration of the yellow pigment vis-a-vis the water that you take. So this is one of the darkest yellow that we have got, and it's very fast, you can see that it's not taking time. And it's a fast color because we have added alum to it, and we let it soak, we let it absorb as much of yellow as it can, and then we can wash it with a simple plain water so that the excess comes out, and we can also wash it later on after dipping into the plain water with the Retha powder water, which is soap nut. So soap nut is a natural soap which nature has given us. So in that water we can do, or we can take some kind of pH balanced alkaline kind of a solution of a very simple soap, very light soap. So the idea is that whatever is excess here, we have to take out right now. We don't want customers to have the fabric with a bright yellow and then they wash it and then the excess is coming out. So even if your color reduces in washing, you have to give it a nice wash with cold water and light soap. Then you dry it up in the sun, and if you want darker intensity, you can repeat the process again. Put the color, put the fabric, let it be dipped again, and that way you can increase the intensity of any kind of natural dye into your fiber. So this is cotton. Silk would be shiny and a little bit more of bright intensity, and this would be a little dull in terms of yellow. So okay, now I'm taking it out. Okay, so this is my yellow. After let's say 5 minutes, you can keep boiling it to get better color, better bondage of color molecule to the fibers. Okay, now this yellow is quite nice and pleasant, so I'm gonna take it to the bucket of simple cold water and wash it to show you how much is leaked out. So a little bit of it will be leaked out, and that is normal, that is okay. So this is my bucket of water and I'm dipping it here. So as you can see, whatever is excess is coming out, but still we have a lot of yellow left. So this is not a harmful color. I'm wearing the gloves, but otherwise it's a totally friendly, skin friendly and toxin free kind of a process. So the water has become yellow, fine. This water can again be used in a pot of dye, and yellow has become a little lighter here. It is okay. So this is finally that we get from pomegranate rind with alum as a mordant. So now we have to dry this in the sun so that it becomes a strong bondage, and we can repeat the process. If you want more intensity, maybe we can repeat the process. But generally pomegranate doesn't become like a mustard yellow or darker tone than this, a little bit darker than this, but generally it would remain of this tone, yellowish, nice yellow. Yeah. So that's yellow done, and if you want to make it darker, we can use a little bit of ferrous sulfate, or we want to give some kind of stripes or textures with darker tone of grey. That can be done with ferrous sulfate salt. So that I will show you just now. It's a salt, like a granular salt, like the salt that we eat, and it is ferrous sulfate natural way. It is a rust of iron that is collected, and we can make a natural ferrous sulfate also, but right now I'm showing you the process with a very simple granular kind of ferrous sulfate. So this is my ferrous sulfate. As you can see, it is very strong. We have to use just 5 milligram to give some kind of a blackish tinge to the fabric. So we would be using just this much for that much of fabric, not even this much. Very little, like 2-3 grams or 5 grams, to give some kind of blackish kind of tinge to the yellow that we have. Okay, so now this yellow is semi-wet fabric. It is washed with a plain water, and I'm gonna fold it into certain kind of triangles. So you can fold it in pleats or triangles, whichever way you want, and we want it a little bit semi-wet so that color seeps in faster. So this is how semi-wet fabric, not totally dry, and I'm folding it again into some kind of pleats. So I said we can give a greyish or blackish tinge to this yellow. So natural dyes are very, you can mix one with the other. You can mix yellow with red, you can mix grey with red, grey with yellow. So right now the grey source or the black source is with me as ferrous sulfate that we have shown you. And this is my dry ferrous sulfate. I have some cold water. So very little water, as much as you need for dipping it. In fact, this is even more, so I'm going to reduce it. So very little water, and this is my fold. I'm not gonna dip it fully, I'll just dip the, so this is my fold and I'm gonna dip it only the corners into this black water and see what happens. You can make it as small as you want, but if I go further the shape is not coming out. Okay, so I'm just stopping here. So folds, folds, folds in triangle, and I take a little bit of this ferrous sulfate, so you can get it easily into the market, and we need only 2, 3 or 5 grams. We take it in cold water and we start dissolving it. So you won't see any color right now, it is just sort of plain water with a little of this grey tinge appearing, yellow grey. So that's all. There is no color in this. You would see almost transparent water, and when I react it with any of the natural dye, it would take up the color of, the color of the fabric which we have dyed with a natural dye. That natural dye will take up a darker tone because of this ferrous sulfate. So it's not a color, but any color dipped into ferrous sulfate would make it darker. So this is my yellow, and I'm gonna dip it into one part of it. Just keep it here. It's a cold water, natural water, nothing else. So you see this is becoming darker. You see a darker tone happening here. Okay, so this yellow is becoming dark yellow or a greyish yellow. So this is what I'm gonna dip another part of it. So the more ferrous sulfate you give, the more would be the darkness of the grey that you get. So the idea of folds is that you don't get it everywhere. If you want it everywhere, take enough water, and after dyeing it with some color, dip it into this plain water with the ferrous sulfate, cold water, nothing, no fire, no temperature, it's just a cold process. So that way we are saving a lot of energy. So this is my yellow, taking up the grey, and let's say I open it now. So either you let it dry and then open it, it will take a darker tinge a little bit because of the oxidation process, and oxygen plus iron would keep giving you darker tones. But right now I'm just gonna open it up and show you what happens. So we open it up. So you will see little dark black lines, greyish lines happening here. So if you want more grey, you can add in more of ferrous sulfate. So this is what we got, a little bit of grey texture onto our yellow, and this can be as artistic as you want. So now this ferrous sulfate is not very skin friendly. I'm washing it in water. So wash it nicely and then again we dry this. After drying, it becomes more dark. So that's what we got. Madder in powder form, like this. It's a root. उस root को जब हम grind करते हैं तो हमारे पास ये powder आता है, and then we put 1 tablespoon into this water. It will give you a lot of red color. So it is soapy, you can get the feel of this foam kind of thing happening, which is fine. So you let it boil for some time. Sample, and I am gonna dip it into madder dye. Madder is the root can cook, like 2, 3, 4 and roundish, and has red color in it. When we grind it nicely into a powder, and we can use the mordant as alum. So this water that I boiled here, which I showed you in the kitchen, is totally dark red kind of pigment right now, and I'm warming it up again. So here nice bright blood red, and cotton is a cellulosic fiber. Again I have dipped it into soapy water overnight and washed it nicely. It's a soft semi-dry kind of a fabric right now. So I'm going to dip it, and madder takes a lot of time to be soaked up into the fabric. So the artisans use copper vessels, big copper vessels, because copper can intensify the red color. So here we are using a simple method where we have madder root powder into water, and then we mix up. And alum, again the quantity 20, 30, 40% dye to the weight of the fabric. So for sampling you can just take 1 teaspoon per 5 by 5 inch and a big tablespoon for 10 by 10 inch. So yeah, it's boiling. We don't want boiling, we want a slow kind of a boiling of the color. We don't want too high heat, because very high heat would turn madder into brownish stage, and low heat would maintain the pinkish and pinkish kind of tone. So I'm dipping it into water, and let's see. It has to be there in the dye for almost half an hour, 1 hour, depending upon quantity. So here I will take it out faster just to show you. And as you can see, as soon as I dip this fabric into the water, it is starting to take up the red color. So madder red was famous from India in the calicos, which were exported from India to Europe, to English people, and Africa, everywhere in the world. Indian cheent, as it is called, was famous for this red dye, and the artisans here in India knew the secret formula of various kind of recipes to give the bright red. So we have used a very simple recipe, not too much of that. The proper recipe would take days and days maybe to get the red. So we have taken a very simple recipe of boiling the madder powder into the water, and after boiling it for half an hour at low or medium heat, we have mixed up some alum into it. I haven't mixed too much of alum into it. So this should remain in the water, and you should keep rotating it for almost like half an hour to 1 hour, depending upon quantity, color intensity, heat, all that. So this is taking up this red color, as you can see. If you have diluted kind of madder dye, you would get from very light peach to sort of pinkish tinge into the cotton fabric. Almost same would be for the silk, same kind of red. So here we see it is taking up red, and it is in the dye bath, coming out nice red. It is kind of a brick red, the brickish kind of, that very Indian subtle tone of red. It's not a tomato red, it's not that bright red that you have been exposed to in terms of poster colors or the Western idea of the colors. So this is sort of a brickish brownish red, and it can give you peach if used in lesser quantity. So now we let it simmer here, and we keep stirring the solution with the sample in it for almost like half an hour. So if you take it out too early, the dye would not be very strongly bonding with the fibers, and it might come out when we do the after wash with the soapy solution. So again, like, you can repeat the same process to get better dye into your fibers. So it's an Ayurvedic medicine. Madder is supposed to be good for your heart and skin, and people used to dye their fabrics with these Ayurvedic herbs so that they do not get skin infection, and skin is absorbing these natural ingredients, and our resistance to disease was sort of taken care by these costumes or fabrics which were dyed laboriously over a period of 10 to 15 days or even a month. These natural dyes. So I'm taking it out and washing it. So I should be leaving it for almost half an hour. Right now I'm taking it out. So I'm leaving another smaller sample into this. The other smaller sample would be treated. So the dye is not wasted right now. The water still has dye molecules. As long as you can see the reddish pinkish tinge, the dye is there in the water. You can always dip dye more samples in. So now this cute little piece with a lot of bright red, and I'm gonna dip it in water. The intensity will reduce, but that's okay. So here is my bucket. A lot of water is used in this, and artisans in villages have rivers as their natural source of water, and rivers contain some kind of minerals depending upon which place the rivers are in, and that is how every region had different kind of dyeing processes and color intensity, and not every place could be used as a craft center for doing the printing and dyeing, because they did not have the proper kind of maybe herbs or water or temperature. You need a lot of sun for this kind of operation. You cannot dye in monsoons when there is rain. It will not come out as a nice dye. So this is my red which I got. Yeah, big red orangish. If you want more intensity, you can dye this piece again into that red solution. Here, sort of a British red. Onto cotton fabric. This is pure cotton, grey fabric. It is not a handloom fabric. So handloom fabric with hand spun yarn would give you even better soaking of the dye molecule to the fabric. So this is done, and I can again put some kind of black into it, but I think I'll use the other sample for doing that. So okay, we are drying up all the samples here. There is a greenish, the one which was yellow, and now there is a red. Okay. So we take it out, this red sample, and we try to soak it into the black one. So this is my red, and it is only 5 minutes, not even maybe 5 minutes. You can see that a lot of red has come into this one. So I'll wash it and then I'll dip it into the iron solution. So wash in plain water, no need to use soapy water right now. Washing it with red. This is my strip of peaches. As you can see, the two samples are different in intensity. This one is lighter and that one is darker. So as the fabric keeps on soaking the dye molecule, the intensity of dye in that same water becomes lesser. You can add more dye into the water and boil it again. So it's never a waste, this water. It can stay okay, without any kind of fungal infection for 2 to 3 days. So this, never throw the water which you have dyed it into. It can always be mixed with others or dyed into another. So okay, now I'm gonna dip it into black, and I'm just folding it instead of that fold. I'm just crushing it approximately, and I'm doing a little bit of this random kind of a fold. So this is my black, and I'm gonna leave it here. So this peach would take up the grey. And I haven't mixed more, it is the same one that we used for yellow. I haven't used more. So because it is so crushed up, the gray would not be even as we got in the yellow. It would be spaced out because there are folds where the black ferrous sulfate cannot penetrate, so it would leave some surface as darker and some as lighter, and it would be a random because the fabric was crushed in a random manner. So we leave it here for some 2-5 minutes and then we take it out. Let's see, when we take it out we should be wearing gloves. This ferrous sulfate is not a very skin friendly fiber, so we get this kind of peachish grey kind of tinge into it. So as I'm opening it, if you want to increase the intensity, increase the ferrous sulfate. That's a simple recipe. So when I'm opening it, I get spaces of grey. I do not get even grey, I get spaces of grey or black. And again, I'm gonna wash it in plain water and see what happens. So you have to do thorough washing right now of the sample. So we got some effect as grey blotches, and it can give you very nice texture with this light grey onto the peach. So I'm gonna dry this also here. So there is a greyish tinge and a total red. These two are different, and this was again also ferrous sulfate but in more quantity. So if we mix up more quantity, this will turn towards blackish peachish color. Maybe we can try that. Okay. So let's try a little bit more of ferrous sulfate into this solution. So we add 5 to 10 grams more. Just cold water. We do not throw this water also, it will never be spoiled. So we mix it more. Put half of the sample into it and let the half be what it was. So it's a cold process, doesn't take time, very time saving and easy process. Maybe I should mix more. So you can keep mixing in it and get the intensity that you want. So I'm letting it dip. Okay, so you don't need as much of quantity as you need in cotton. Cotton needs a lot of dye quantity. If you are using silk, the same quantity can give you much brighter shade and more intense shade. So for silk, it's a protein fiber, and same way wool, pure wool, it's a protein fiber. You can actually, with the same kind of process, it would be faster and more intense color. So as you can see, the dye color has started changing the tone of the lower fabric. It has become darker, and there is a combination of peach and grey happening here in the lower portion. So this is how you give shades to the simple primary colors from the dye. There can be more methods and recipes to give other shades and other dyes, but this is a simple one. Cold water process, no hot water. So I just let the fabric dry into the air. Oxygen is gonna make it a little bit stronger, and we have to dry this in sun, total sun. So 2 different shades. Let's wash it. So we have to do proper washing with the coconut water or easy, some kind of less alkaline soap. But here we can see clearly the 2 different shades of the same peach, which is from this madder. So you can see the madder and the fabric and the shades. So here I'm going to show you very organic method of making black color, black fermented water from iron using molasses or jaggery. So any kind of raw sugar can be used for this. We take molasses as, let's say, 1 kg, and we take double the water
we are going to boil it on a low heat, and then we're gonna store it in a plastic or a glass container. So this is my small vat. I have a older vat in which I have prepared this solution for past almost 3 years, and you can use any kind of old iron, screw, nuts, anything with a rust, latches. So as soon as I put jaggery into a little warm water, it will start melting, and these screw and iron pieces would be mixed with it, and it's a pipe, old pipe with nice iron source, and I can recycle this into making my black color. It's a very economical process because we will not have to do any other costing into this solution, except that we have to mix it up with harda. Harda is myrobalan powder with a lot of tannin into it. So that myrobalan powder is going to be mixed with this solution of iron and jaggery after it has fermented, and then it can give us very nice color for textiles, black color. Okay, so the water has become brownish, low heat. We take the pot. We can take a bigger pot as well, but we have to have a lid on top. If we are taking an earthen pot, it would be better because there would be more circulation of air and moisture from the vat to the outside environment, and it can lead to better fermentation process. So we'll keep it closed for almost a month. In between we can stir it after 1 or 2 days. You would see some kind of foam on top of the solution, and that is but natural. We don't have to be scared of it. So this is how Indian artisans use the black color to make the various kind of printed fabrics from India, which is like ajrak or dabu. A lot of these ancient techniques are used in Sindh in Pakistan to make fabrics which are localized and which are supposed to be inherited from one generation to another. So there were some fragments of fabric of cotton found from Mohenjo-daro and Harappa, and they were supposed to be more than 1000 years old, and they have indigo, madder, red and black from iron rust. So you can cool the water and then pour it. We can also use a plastic container. Indian craftsmen, they use matka, which is earthen pot, terracotta. So we are going to close the lid and keep it like this for almost like 4 weeks, so a month of fermentation, and then we can use this black water, iron water, along with the myrobalan to get the black color. So please remember, this is not a color, this is just a mordant right now with iron salts into it. The ferrous sulfate was a ready-made salt, and this solution is more organic. So here is my harda. We get it for very cheap in India. I do not know what is the cost abroad, and maybe any other fruit which has a lot of tannin can be replaced with myrobalan. So we need tannin from myrobalan to make the black color fix as black onto the fibers of the cloth. So I'm making a paste with the cold water. There is no heat, and we first make a paste and then we add more water. We add water as much as comfortably we can dip the fabric inside this solution. So it should be not very thick, it should be watery. It would smell a little bit like a bitter kind of a smell would come out of it. It is an alkaline herb and it is an anti-fungal herb. In India, it is used as Ayurvedic medicine. We orally consume hard powder in order to have better digestion and for skin disease and for regulating the alkaline property in our digestive system. So here I am turning it over, so we leave it overnight, or if we do it immediately then also we would get a black color, but better is to leave it overnight for a few prolonged hours and then we dry it out in the sun without washing. So before you wash or do anything else, just take it out, wring out the excess of the water from here and dry out in the sun. So after, let's say, 10 to 20 hours, we prepare it for dyeing with black color. So I have collected in the bottle my iron solution, which is very old, like 3 years old. It's a very strong solution, and the other one is a ferrous sulfate salt that I sourced from the market. So the two would give a little bit of different black shades. Ferrous sulfate would give grayish kind of a tinge, whereas this jaggery and iron solution would give reddish black kind of a solution. Okay, so let's assume that we have kept it for 10 to 20 hours and now we are going to dilute the black water from old vat of iron. So this is brownish color and very strong. You have to wear a mask because the solution might itch on the skin. So we have to be careful by using the black fermented water. Now I'm mixing in the other plastic pot the ferrous sulfate salt, which is also iron salt. However, it would give grayish kind of a tinge to any color. So any color like I've shown you in madder, any dyed fabric can be dipped as a post-mordant into this ferrous sulfate solution in cold water. So again, it's very eco-friendly, not much use of the heat and very fast, so immediately we get a black color. Okay, so let's see how do we proceed further. And okay, so what I made yesterday as my black water in the pot with iron pipe and screw, it has started taking some reddish tinge. There are some bubbles inside it. Okay, so now ferrous sulfate we dissolve nicely, and the other solution we have diluted. It depends upon the strength of the solution. You might not want to dilute, it depends upon. So you have to do a test on a small fabric, and then we come to know what is the strength of the solution, and accordingly we dye the bigger pieces of fabric. It can be space dyed as well because the solution is very strong. So you can do tie and dye, shibori, and printing as well when we have a color like this. So as you can see, myrobalan makes the fabric take up the black color. If we do not have myrobalan, these solutions would be inactive. They would be not making any color on the fabric. So this is black color. Immediately we get the black ink or the dye onto the fabric, and we haven't washed it. We can dry in the sun, and then once it is dried we can bring again to the a semi-wet kind of condition and then dip it in the water. So the other piece of same cotton I am dipping in the ferrous sulfate solution so that we can see the difference between the two. So here it goes, and as you can see the color is greyish tint, and if we want to have more blackish tint over here, maybe we have to do a repeated process, and sometimes henna is also mixed along with ferrous sulfate to give a reddish greyish kind of a color. So but nice grey. You can have different shades of grey depending upon how the intensity or the strength of the ferrous sulfate in water is, and what is the dye base on which we are working. So here myrobalan is acting as a mordant, and ferrous sulfate also as a mordant somehow. So both the mordants, and so we do not heat up myrobalan and take the yellow color. We do a cold process. That's what, and these colors are fast on the fabric, especially color fastness and sun fastness would be there if you keep on drying your fabric in between or after every stage, so that we already have some kind of color fastness in each of the process in between. In fact, this normal ferrous solution, this ferrous sulfate would be taking darker shade in the sun and air. So oxidation will make the color go dark after you dry it up. And in the other solution as well, the air oxidation and the sun heat would make it darker. So it's very interesting how ancient people found out these colors, dyes, technology of ink, and they wrote and they painted using this black ink. So if we strain the black ink, the solution of myrobalan and iron water, we get ink. So here I'm washing the fabric, so I used easy soap, which is non-ionic kind of a soap, or we can use soap nut solution. Soap nut powder is boiled in plain water for like half an hour, and then we dip the cloth in it. We let it remain there for almost like 15 to 20 minutes, and then we wash the fabric into plain water. So here is it's a very soft soap, and I'm washing the fabric, and I've washed it after this dyeing as well, and the color doesn't leak, especially black and indigo, they do not leak. Madder sometimes can be fussy, madder can leak from the already dyed fabric. So this is my soap nut solution. As you can see, the color from the ferrous sulfate salt, which was greenish earlier, it is called as kashish in Hindi by artisans here in India. So kashish would give a greyish tinge. So we have to mix it with some kind of source of red or orange to make it look the jet black, the kind of jet black that comes out with the jaggery and iron solution. So here also, whatever is the excess, whatever is not bonded with the fabric molecule, we have to take it out now. We have to wash it nicely. We can wash it in the washing machine as well, but then only one dyed sample at a time. It cannot be mixed with other samples. So everything is softening the fabric as well. So once you have done the pre-modern, post-modern, and drying up in the sun and hand wash and Rita soap. So fabric becomes very soft. It is softer than the fabric which is printed by, let's say, screen print or a roller printing. The fabric has gone through a lot of washes and handling, so this makes it what it is as the Indian printed or dyed fabric. It's very soft fabric, good for skin, eco-friendly, and harada and pomegranate peel and madder powder, they are all herbs that we use onto the fabric, and our skin is absorbing these non-toxic beneficial chemicals. After all, everything is chemical, and the skin is absorbing this good properties of these eco-friendly chemicals and dyes throughout the day. As you can see, it is a very granular kind of a dye, and we have to first crush it nicely in a little bit of water, make a paste, add more water, and then strain it out as more liquidy form into the water which we have placed on the convection. So this water is not boiling, just below the boiling point, around 80 degrees Celsius, and lac dye is going to be giving us color ranging from orange to deep orange to purplish violet kind of color range, along with the mordant of alum and ferrous sulfate. So alum would give us more towards orange and deep orange, and ferrous sulfate would give us towards the purple side. So ferrous sulfate is a salt, as you have seen in the first colors that we have done, yellow and red, and it's a post treatment and it's a cold process. So ferrous sulfate has to be in cold water. Make a solution, let it be dissolved in the water properly, and then we use the dyed fabric into this ferrous sulfate solution, and then we wash it with a non-ionic kind of a soap, very soft kind of a soap, not much of caustic soda, or we can use the gallnut or soap nut to make a solution which is a natural organic soap. So as you see, when I filter out the water, it is turning into deep red. Same solution, we are going to dye two fabrics. One will be with alum and one will be post treatment to the ferrous sulfate, which I am showing in this plastic bowl of black color. Yeah, so wear your gloves, wear the mask, because it can be a little bit fumes might harm you. So for bigger quantity you would need more of the water, more of the dye. So generally this dye is around 20% weight of the fabric. It is not as much used as madder and pomegranate or direct vegetable source like flowers and leaves. So it's a very concentrated kind of a dye that we get in India, and it's a very powerful dye. So I'm gonna show some shibori technique as well over here. So I'm folding the fabrics in pleating. So you can do fan pleat, or you can do pleating after the box pleat, or you can do triangular folds, it depends. So here is just a simple sample of the folded technique with the cotton fabric. So it is already semi-wet and washed one day before. So fold it nicely. So I have the clamps. I'm gonna put the clamps on two sides so that corner gets a repeat 4 times. So it's a mirror image and a double image of the mirror image. So you would get something like a rhombus or a diamond shape once it opens up. So the resist area would not have the color, and lac dye, since it is seeping through the layers and the mordant would be very less, you might get anywhere from purple background to orangish kind of a resist and to white. So this other sample of kala cotton, hand spun yarn from Gujarat, organic cotton and very indigenous seed fabric made on handloom, is having the orange color. The other cotton, because that is it's a grey muslin fabric, but it is a power loom fabric, so maybe there are some other treatments, and that is giving us pinkish kind of a shade. So now this cotton, when I put kala cotton fabric with checks, orange fabric, in the ferrous sulfate dye bath, it has taken some kind of a lightish mustard kind of a tinge. So we can keep it and soak it as an after treatment for around 5 to 10 minutes, and then we squeeze out the water, and you won't see it so much dark right now, but once we wash it and we keep it in the air, the oxygen would make the ferrous sulfate work more. You might get a deeper shade once you dry it out in sun and air. Okay, so the other piece now, which is here in the dye vat, is also a check fabric, and I'm going to put an element to it. So one fabric, as you have seen, is lac dye and a post mordant of ferrous sulfate. The other one is a lac dye plus alum as a mordant within the same vat. So it is a simultaneous kind of a process. So we mix up the alum into the dye vat, and we have to rotate the fabric continuously, otherwise we might get a patchy dyeing. So this is a rigorous process. We have to boil the lac dye at 80 degrees Celsius and at a low heat, and we have to boil for almost half an hour, and we have to put the alum and then again boil for another half an hour. So here other sample, the shibori resist with clamp, is put into the iron water solution from the natural fermented jaggery water of the iron, and that one I've told you the process how to make it. It will take almost 2 weeks to a month to get the right amount of consistency, but it's a much stronger kind of a iron solution than the ferrous sulfate salt. So here you see you are getting a little bit of purple, peachish, blackish and dark orange as well. So there are many shades in this one sample because we have dipped it partially. This will fade out a little. Right now in the picture it's quite dark and I'm doing it faster, so for more color, more time and more patience. And once we open it, the pattern is going to repeat. So pattern is going to repeat 4 times. So these 2 clamps 4 times makes it 8, and 8 is going to be repeat again and again. So you get a diamond and you get a star type of a pattern into this. And this one is the amazing part of folded technique with simple clamps. I always enjoy, and I enjoy natural dyes a lot. They are surprising every time, and maybe you guys can have the same fun that I've been having for the past almost 10 years. So this sample has to be dried first and then washed in simple water and plain soap. As you dry it up, the purple is gonna be increased more. So it's fun to have it.
everybody for coming to this swap. We want to thank Rick from BK South Foundation, who's responsible for the swap, and Caprice, who's the host of the swap. But we wanted to do a little special announcement because Caprice doesn't know, but we are making Caprice the very first Sustainable Fashion Week Ambassador. And this is what we made for her.
Ooh, nice. That's nice.
That's wild.
Oh, that is too cute. I love that.
And Caprice will wear it too.
And we just, and the reason why we do this is because we appreciate Caprice so much. The Anthrop video that she submitted for the first one, we're still getting so much feedback from that. It was amazing.
Amazing.
And getting you guys to be a part of the workshop and hosting this, we really don't know what we would do without her. And we want you to know how much we appreciate you. And this movement is so important. So thank you so much.
Oh, thank you.
Put it on, put it on.
For your jacket.
And Cortez, of course, did the
print.
for you.
Oh my God, this is amazing. I did not expect that.
That is so cool. Oh, wow, that's so cute. And it is so Caprice. I love it. I love it.
I made the jacket and my husband did the artwork.
I know it's fun not supposed to do this, but that's all right. Oh my gosh, thank you, Rick.
Thank you.
Can somebody take that picture, please?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Am I blocking it?
Thank you for watching day 2 of the Sustainable Fashion Week International Earth Day virtual workshop series. My name is Caprice Ann Jackson, your Sustainable Fashion Week brand ambassador. Looking forward to your presence tomorrow for day 3. See you then.